The scream wasn't human. It was the tortured shriek of metal tearing itself apart at 180 miles per hour. Mark Thorne felt it before he heard it, a sickening, unnatural vibration through the steering wheel of his championship-leading Formula Raptor, the Silver Streak. One instant, he was dancing on the razor's edge of adhesion through the high-speed Parabolica corner at Monza. The roar of the crowd, a distant thunder, the taste of victory sharp and sweet. The next, the rear end snapped sideways with vicious, impossible violence. Not a slide he could catch, not a loss of grip he could counter. This was betrayal. This was mechanical murder. The world dissolved into a terrifying kaleidoscope of sky, tarmac, barrier, sky again. The carbon fiber monocoque around him became a drum, beaten by relentless, shattering impacts. Something white-hot exploded in his legs. Then, silence. A thick, suffocating silence broken only by the frantic crackle of his engineer's voice in his earpiece. Mark, talk to me. What happened?" Mark couldn't talk. He couldn't breathe. He could only stare, dazed through the cracked visor of his helmet, at the twisted wreckage of his dream, smoke curling like an accusation into the Italian sky. And high above, on the team's exclusive viewing balcony, his older brother, Jake, stood. Not rushing down, not horrified, just watching. A slight, almost imperceptible tightening of his jaw beneath the mirrored sunglasses. Then a slow nod, as if confirming a grim calculation. In that suspended moment of agony and shock, Mark knew with a chilling certainty that cut through the pain. Jake, his own blood, his fiercest rival, consumed by jealousy and their father's blatant favoritism towards Mark's raw talent. Jake had finally done it. He'd reached into the machine and twisted fate. The Silver Streak wasn't Mark's coffin. His legs were. The doctors were brutally kind. Multiple complex fractures, spinal compression, extensive nerve damage. Unlikely you'll walk unaided again, let alone race. The words were scalpels, carving away his future. His father, Robert Thorne, founder of Thorne Motorsport, wept unashamedly at his bedside, his booming voice reduced to a broken whisper. "We'll find who did this, son. We'll make them pay." But Jake was there too, the dutiful son, the concerned brother. He placed a hand on Robert's shoulder. "It was a tragic accident, Dad. Freak failure. The investigation will confirm it." His eyes met Mark's, and in them, Mark saw no sorrow, only a cold, hard warning. Stay down. Accept it. The investigation, heavily influenced by Thorne Motorsport's internal review, led by Jake, concluded swiftly. Catastrophic suspension failure due to a microscopic material flaw, an unavoidable tragedy, no blame. Mark saw the lie. He remembered the vibration, the unnatural snap. He knew Jake's mechanical aptitude, his access to the car in the pre-dawn hours before the race. But his accusations, fueled by pain and morphine, sounded like the ravings of a bitter, broken man. Jake played the role perfectly. The supportive brother stepping into the breach, taking Mark's coveted race seat, inheriting his father's focus, becoming the new golden boy of Thorne Motorsport. While Mark was shipped to a sterile rehabilitation center, Jake stood on the Monza podium just months later, spraying champagne, the conquering hero. Robert's pride in Jake was a fresh agony for Mark. He watched it all from a wheelchair, a ghost haunting the periphery of his own life. The roar of engines, once his symphony, now felt like mocking laughter. The smell of fuel and hot rubber was the scent of betrayal. The rage was a living thing, coiled tight in his gut, hotter than the nerve pain shooting through his legs. He wouldn't scream. He wouldn't beg. He would engineer. If he couldn't beat Jake on the track, he'd dismantle him from the inside. He'd become the ghost in the machine, the unseen hand guiding Jake towards his own destruction. Mark vanished. Not from the world, but from Jake's orbit. He sold his shares in Thorn Motorsport, a move Jake encouraged, calling it pragmatic, using the capital to disappear into the anonymous sprawl of Stuttgart, Germany, the heartland of automotive engineering. He enrolled under a false name, Kai Fogel, at a prestigious technical university. While Jake chased glory on global circuits, Kai Fogel buried himself in the cold, precise language of physics, metallurgy, computational fluid dynamics, and vehicle dynamics. He learned not just how cars worked, but how they felt at their limit, how they communicated with a driver, how they could be subtly persuaded to fail. He studied stress fractures, harmonic vibrations, thermal degradation, software vulnerabilities. He became an expert in the psychology of speed, the fears that lurked beneath the driver's bravado. He learned to walk again, not with grace, but with a fierce, limping determination, aided by state-of-the-art bionic braces concealed beneath his trousers. The pain was a constant companion, a brutal reminder, fuel for his focus. Years bled into relentless study and physical agony. Kai Fogel graduated top of his class, a quiet, intense prodigy. He took obscure engineering roles with niche suppliers, building an impeachable, if deliberately unspectacular, resume. He cultivated a reputation for brilliance, shrouded in eccentricity and solitude. He watched Jake's career soar. 3 World Drivers' Championships, adulation, wealth. Their father, Robert, beamed with pride, his grief over Mark seemingly channeled entirely into Jake's success. Mark, now Kai, felt nothing but the cold burn of anticipation. The time wasn't right. He needed access. He needed the perfect stage. It arrived like a gift wrapped in hubris. Titan Racing, Thorn Motorsport's fiercest rival, was floundering. Their radical new car, the Hyperion, was blisteringly fast in simulations, but a temperamental, unpredictable beast on the track. Drivers complained of vicious snap oversteer, inexplicable brake fade, and terrifying aerodynamic instability at high speeds. Rumors swirled of internal chaos, a desperate need for a technical miracle worker. Kai Fogel applied. His application was a masterpiece of understated competence, highlighting specific, obscure projects dealing with vibration damping and complex aerodynamic modeling, exactly the Hyperion's weaknesses. Titan's beleaguered technical director, Elena Rostova, a woman known for her ruthless pragmatism and sharp eye for talent, saw past the eccentricities. She hired him as a senior performance engineer. Kai entered the Titan garage at the Monaco Grand Prix, a world away from Thorn's polished operation. The atmosphere was tense, thick with frustration. He saw the Hyperion, a sleek, aggressive beast that looked fast, even standing still. And he saw his target, Jake Thorn, leaning casually against his Thorn Motorsport car in the adjacent garage, chatting with a reporter, the picture of arrogant confidence. Jake's eyes flickered over Kai, registering only another anonymous engineer in Titan's rumpled overalls. No flicker of recognition. Mark was dead. Kai Fogel was invisible. Perfect. Kai worked with quiet, relentless efficiency. He didn't try to fix the Hyperion. He understood it. He mapped its flaws, its hidden vices. He spoke little, listened intently to the driver's fear-laced complaints, and presented Elena with data-driven insights that were startlingly accurate.
He gained her wary trust. He started subtly influencing the car Jake would face. During technical briefings open to all teams, Kai would ask seemingly innocuous questions about Thorn's innovative and supposedly foolproof traction control system or their unique brake cooling solution. His questions were sharp, pinpointing theoretical edge cases that sounded improbable but planted seeds of complacency in the Thorn engineers' minds. Surely, under extreme combined lateral and longitudinal g-forces at Suzuka's Degner curves, the harmonic resonance in your rear damper system could potentially he'd trail off, letting the implication hang. The Thorn engineers scoffed, but Kai saw the flicker of unease. He began his psychological warfare. Using encrypted channels and anonymous accounts on dark racing forums, Kai started leaking carefully crafted snippets. Not lies, but twisted truths, half-truths, and uncomfortable questions. Is Thorn's dominance masking inherent instability in their new chassis design? Veteran test driver reported unsettling oscillations at Paul Ricard. Whispers from Thorn Garage. Jake Thorn struggling with confidence after near miss in Baku. Is the pressure finally showing? The whispers grew. Jake, always sensitive to criticism beneath his bravado, started snapping at his engineers, demanding more speed, more reliability, questioning their competence. He became obsessed with the Hyperion's raw pace, pushing his own car harder, closer to its theoretical and Kai knew actual limits. Kai's masterpiece, however, was the ghost in Thorn's machine. He identified a tiny, almost poetic vulnerability in the Thorn car's complex electronic control unit, ECU. A specific sequence of rapid steering inputs combined with aggressive throttle modulation during high-speed corner exits could, theoretically, cause a minuscule lag in the differential response. Insignificant for 99.9% of drivers, but for a driver pushing the absolute limit, dancing on that razor's edge, it could induce a split-second sensation of rear-end looseness, a phantom slide, just enough to trigger instinctive and potentially destabilizing corrections. Kai couldn't hack the Thorn ECU directly, but he could exploit the driver. He meticulously studied Jake's telemetry, his driving style. Jake was aggressive on corner exit, often stamping on the throttle early, relying on the car's superior electronics to manage wheel spin. Kai crafted scenarios. During practice sessions, where Thorn and Titan ran concurrently, Kai would instruct the Titan driver to execute maneuvers that subtly pressured Jake into precisely those high-risk corner exits. He'd analyze Jake's reactions. He saw the first flicker of doubt in Jake's data trace after a particularly close call at Spa. A tiny, unnecessary lift of the throttle milliseconds earlier than usual. The phantom slide had registered. The seed was planted. Kai nurtured it. He ensured Titan's strategy often forced Jake into vulnerable positions on track. He subtly amplified the whispers online, focusing on Jake's recent, uncharacteristic moments. He leaked fabricated internal Thorn communications expressing concern about Jake's consistency. The effect was insidious. Jake started overdriving, trying to crush the doubts to prove his dominance. He made small, unforced errors, a lockup here, a run wide there. Points slipped away. The media, smelling blood, amplified every mistake. Thorn under pressure? The headlines asked. Cracks in the champion's armor? Robert Thorn, watching his golden boy falter, grew visibly tense, his disappointment a tangible force in the Thorn garage. Jake felt it. The pressure mounted. His confidence, once unshakable, began to fray. He became hypersensitive to the car's behavior, imagining instability where none existed, overreacting to normal feedback. Kai watched it all, a silent conductor, orchestrating a symphony of doubt. He saw the fear creeping into Jake's eyes during pre-race briefings, the haunted look of a man who felt the machine, his own kingdom, subtly turning against him.
The climax arrived at the Monaco Grand Prix, the jewel in the crown, a circuit where confidence was everything, and mistakes were punished by unforgiving barriers. Jake started from pole, but the tension radiating from him was palpable. Kai, perched high in the Titan garage with Elena, monitored everything. The race was a brutal ballet of speed and survival. Jake led, but his driving was ragged, defensive. He braked earlier, accelerated later, nursing the car, fighting invisible demons. Kai's Titan driver, young and fearless, harried him relentlessly. Then, on lap 42, threading the needle through the treacherous swimming pool section, it happened. Jake exited the final left-hander, planted the throttle as usual, but this time, the phantom slide sensation Kai had engineered struck with perfect timing. A micro-lag, a fractional loss of rear grip, amplified tenfold by Jake's frayed nerves. Jake jerked the wheel instinctively, overcorrecting. The rear tires, overloaded, snapped loose. The Thorn car speared sideways across the track, a helpless projectile. It slammed rear first into the unforgiving Armco barrier with a sickening, resonant crunch. Not the violent, multi-impact crash that had broken Mark, but a single, brutal impact that shattered the rear suspension and crumpled the gearbox housing. Jake's car spun to a stop, skewed across the track, trailing fluid and shattered carbon fiber. The race was red-flagged. Silence descended, broken only by the hiss of escaping fluids and the distant wail of sirens. Jake didn't move immediately. He sat slumped in the cockpit, helmet resting against the headrest. When the marshals reached him, he waved them off, clambering out, unaided. But his movements were stiff, shell-shocked. He stood amidst the wreckage of his car, staring not at the damage, but down the pit straight towards the Thorn garage, towards his father's box. The look on his face wasn't pain from the impact, but a dawning, horrified comprehension. He scanned the sea of faces behind the barriers, the engineers in rival garages. His gaze swept past the Titan booth, past Kai Vogel, the unassuming engineer watching him with detached interest. But then Jake's eyes snapped back. Something in the way Kai stood, the tilt of his head, the cold, assessing gaze, it triggered a memory buried deep beneath years of denial. A memory of a hospital room, of broken eyes filled with accusation. Jake froze, stared directly at Kai. Kai didn't look away. He didn't smile. He simply held Jake's gaze, a silent, chilling challenge transmitted across the chaos of the track. In that moment, amidst the acrid smell of burning carbon and spilled oil, Jake Thorn didn't see Kai Vogel. He saw the ghost of his brother, Mark, not broken and defeated, but rebuilt, remade into something cold, precise, and infinitely dangerous. He saw the architect of his downfall. The truth hit Jake with the force of the barrier he'd just struck. This wasn't bad luck. This wasn't pressure. This was vengeance, meticulously engineered. Mark was alive. Mark was here. And Mark wasn't finished. Jake's championship lead was gone. His aura of invincibility shattered. His car was destroyed. And now the ghost he thought he'd buried was standing in his rival's garage, watching him with eyes that promised more ruin to come. The roar of the crowd was a distant hum. The only sound Jake could hear was the pounding of his own terrified heart and the silent, screaming question echoing in his skull. What hellish design does he have planned for me next?
Story end. Thank you for joining us on this high-octane journey of betrayal and chillingly precise revenge. The checkered flag may have fallen, but the race is far from over. What devastating move will Kai make next? Can Jake escape the ghost of his own betrayal? Subscribe now for tomorrow's explosive continuation and dive into our library of intense sagas where family bonds become battle lines. Hit that notification bell. The next twist is just a click away. Until next time.